The RSI Salvation is a surprise addition to Star Citizen, and in this video we're going to find out if this ship is your salvation or destruction. Well, mostly destruction, because it destroys ships. The Salvation is RSI's entry into the salvaging business, and as far as the dimensions are concerned, this might be the smallest RSI ship ever. But you know the old saying goes, it's not the size, but what you do with it that counts. And until the Arastra makes an appearance, this is RSI's only industrial ship. So we'll be going over the specs, do a very brief tour of the ship, check out its performance, and see if this flying Xbox is worth the shit it's scraping. Here are all the specs of this ship. The fact that it can hold 2 shields already makes it better than the Intrepid. Its max speed in quantum mode is 1150 meters per second, and its max speed in normal mode is 205 meters per second and 290 with boost. Hull HP is on the light side with only 5500 HP. For comparison, that's slightly less than the Aurora, so best not to go around picking fights with this ship. Now this is a cockpit only ship. Let's take a seat and see how it looks. So there are 2 displays. There's a filler station display at the bottom right, which we'll look at later. If we get the salvage heads out, there are 2, which is already more than the fortune, each holding a cinch scraper module. Now let's take a look at the exterior. Here's one of the shield generators. I don't know what that is. This is the cargo bay. You can deploy it like a ramp, I'm assuming to make it easier to offload cargo. Some storage for your stuff. This is where the fuses are. Wait, what is this? Some sort of shelf? I think we're gonna need a proper box. Oh wait, it's on both sides of the ship. So I got a box, and if I try to place it, this might be too big. Oh, it falls straight through it. So it's not a shelf. What the fuck is this then? Here's a weapon rack in case you want to go fighting some bad people. And here's another weapon rack, in case one gun isn't enough. And the rest of the components are on the top of the ship. The power plants, the coolers, the other shield generator. Not the most ideal placement if you want to do some hot swapping. On to the salvaging. So last update in Alpha 432, CIG overhauled the structural salvage system, and I never had the chance to check it out, so I can't compare this ship to the Vulture or the Fortune. I also can't really compare it to the Fortune because I've never used it. First, what's the biggest ship that the Salvation can destroy and gobble up? Well, I tried it on the Constellation, and of course it was too big. Next, I tried to slim it down to this Vanguard Warden, and it was still too big. Then I tried it on my own Callus, and it works. So it can handle up to 4.5 SU of ship. I'm assuming that's what it is. According to the Q&A, it can swallow ships up to a Freelancer, but there were no Freelancer salvage contracts at the time, nor did I own or rent one. Because of that, it'll mostly produce construction materials known as rubble, which has low yield but the fastest refining time. However, CIG does not recommend using the Salvation for structural salvage because of its small cargo capacity, and instead recommends using it for hull scraping. On its own, it uses cinch scraper modules, and I wouldn't say I hate it, but I definitely do not like using it. But here's the thing, this ship by default uses the worst version of the cinch module. For comparison, the Vulture cinch modules have a diameter of 1.2 meters. The Salvation cinch modules have a diameter of 80 centimeters or 0.8 meters, so it's 33% smaller for the same efficiency. That right there is a huge deal breaker for me, especially given that I didn't have a lot of time to use it. And I know when people buy the Salvation, no one's gonna be using the default salvage modules, they're gonna be using braids. So I tried to see if I can change the modules for a more accurate assessment. And I learned a few things that some of you probably already know. First, you can't actually swap out the salvage components by yourself, unlike the other salvage ships, because they retract into the ship when they're not active. So I had to get someone to leave the salvage heads open while I tried to swap. Secondly, you can't actually swap out the modules. They're built into the salvage heads, and you can only swap them out in the loadout manager. And this is a rental, so can't do that. And thirdly, according to the Q&A, this ship has unique salvage heads and attachments that cannot be exchanged. That kind of demotivated me, and I thought, damn it, I'm gonna be stuck with these shitty cinch modules. Until I had an idea. What if I swapped the salvage heads from another salvage ship to this one? I mean, after all, I was able to detach the Salvation salvage heads. So I got my Vulture, and another thing I learned is that you can't store salvage heads in your inventory. If you send it down and store it, the game will disappear for some reason. So I have to have both ships in the hangar at the same time. I don't think this will work, but might as well try. Oh? Holy shit, it fits. Oh my god. I gotta do the other one now. Come on. Finally. Alright, now to put the other one in. Woohoo! I can't believe this works. Wait, these are a lot bigger though. What does it look like when it's retracted? Yo, get out, get out. I wanna see this. Haha! Oh my god! That's unbelievable! Holy shit! Does it work though? Did you check? I gotta see this for myself. I'm a fucking genius. I'm a fucking genius. Let's go, man! Now I can actually salvage. I accepted another salvage contract and oh my god, it actually works. I've got to swap out the tractor module for another braid, but whatever, you can also use the tractor as well. Yeah, this is much more tolerable than using cinches. Now just to be clear, you can't do this by yourself. You need someone to help you do it. So for a lot of you, this won't be feasible, but it can be done. Once you're full, at the bottom right is the filler station screen. You can hit the eject button to get the boxes out, or auto eject to eject all of them. Here's what it looks like when it's ejecting. Let me turn around for better lighting. Here we go. So yeah, hatch opens, box comes out, and insta snaps to the cargo grid. Once you're really full, then you take these boxes out. So let's lower the cargo bay and toss these out. Preferably to a cargo ship or a freight elevator, but I don't care about these boxes. I don't have time. Is it harder with the cargo bay raised? Not really. Now this ship I believe is best used in conjunction with a bigger ship, mostly because of its small cargo capacity and its small size. I mean, you can use it on its own. It has its own quantum drive with 1 SE of quantum fuel, so it can go to most places. The smallest ship that can fit a Salvation is the Corsair. It's a tight squeeze, but it'll fit. It will take up the entire cargo bay, and most likely it'll be a one and done. You go into combat, fight a couple ships with your Corsair, then take out the Salvation to salvage the corpses, store them in the Corsair, then ditch it while you fly back home. Same thing with the Perseus, cause there's not a lot of room once the Salvation is in the cargo bay. It can also fit in a Star Lancer. It's a tighter squeeze than the Corsair, but it does fit if you don't use the landing gear. And I believe it's a better combo because the Star Lancer has more cargo space that you can utilize in conjunction with the Salvation. In my opinion though, unless you're a hobo and you're super horny for salvaging, I wouldn't recommend getting this ship. I know it's advertised as a beginner salvaging ship, something to get into the profession, but I'd recommend just saving up for the Vulture, or Fortune if you prefer that, but I prefer the Vulture. The best use case I have for this ship is if you're part of an org or a crew that has a big ship like a Polaris or an Idris, and you want to do more than twiddle your thumbs in a turret. Both of these ships can fit a bunch of Salvations, and you'll have more things to do at least. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have multiple Salvations, couldn't they fracture bigger ships if they all focus on one ship? Kinda like mining? Like you can fracture a constellation if you have 3 of them. That's how it works, right? So with a few of these, you can fracture bigger ships and get higher quality construction materials as a result. Well, actually I don't know about that. It'd be like a swarm of flies eating a desiccated corpse. Currently there's no in-game price for this ship. Of course you can rent it for free from IAE, you can buy it as a standalone for $55 with a war bond, or $60 without a war bond, or as a package for a 15% discount, regular price being $75. For comparison, the Misk Fortune retails for $175 as a standalone, same thing with the Vulture. So this ship will probably be available to purchase in-game in either the next update or the update after. I think next update is more likely because this ship is not that special. If it does, this ship will only be remotely worth it if it's a third of the price of the Fortune. For comparison, for mining, the Prospector costs 2.9 million AWEC. The Golem, the shady alternative, costs just over 1 million. So I expect a similar ratio with the Fortune and the Salvation. I mean, it's already reflected in real money. Regardless, whatever the price is, unless it's super duper cheap, I'ma pass on the Salvation. If you made this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed or found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe and ring that bell. Have you guys used the Salvation? What do you think of it? Agree or disagree with my review? Let me know in the comments below. Currently, IAE is still going on, which means more ships to rent and new ships making their debut. One of them being the Drake Clipper, which I'll be checking out next. And I gotta say, the Clipper, definitely an interesting piece of hardware to say the least. But the Salvation is not the only new RSI ship. There's a more obscure, lesser known ship called the Perseus. You may have heard of it. If you want to know what I think about that ship, then I highly recommend you watch this video right here.